Welcome to the American Contractor Show, the show that's all about American contractors living the American dream. I'm your host, John Dye. Each episode will introduce you to contractors just like you who have beaten the odds and leveled up their game to become the dominant force in their markets. Together, we'll explore the tools and tactics that unlock the secrets to their success. Join me as we begin the journey that leads to the realization of your American dream. Hey guys, good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of the American Contractor Show. I am your host, John Dye, and thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this. And as we continue the American Contractor Show, bi-weekly show, and it's exciting to do this. Huge thank you to all the sponsors, to Atlas, Contractor Coach Pro, Hail Trace, C3 Group, and RoofScope for being a part of this and joining us. If you didn't notice, we got this brand new backdrop that just came in. And we've been waiting for this thing to show up, and it finally came in, and it looks amazing. Great work by our graphics team that put this together and made this a reality. And not that we still love the Catalyst Group, but this is the show's backdrop. And Chuck Thokey is going to be with me today. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a premier roof sales training guys when it comes to retail sales, when it comes to building a team, a system, a sales process. And here's what's cool. He actually helped build a team and worked in an organization that did 100 million plus per year in roofing sales. And most of that was residential retail sales. And so I'm excited to get to talk to him because most of us have never, for most roofing contractors, $2, $3, $4 million, that's a great number. Now multiply that times like 50 and you get close to where they were. And it's pretty awesome to see that and to get to talk to him. And so I'm excited that he's going to be a part of this episode today. But thank you so much again to the sponsors, Catalyst Group, all the rest of them, Atlas, Contractor Coach Pro. These guys are all killing it. RoofScope and C3 Group, Hail Trace. They're all doing such amazing things for our industry and helping us out and helping us become better. So let's bring Chuck in, though. I want to bring him in real quick today because we want to talk to him, and he's got such an amazing story, such a great guy to spend time with. I'm always thankful for his friendship and who he is. But Chuck, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, John. Thanks. I'm excited, man. This new show is amazing. I love it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you get to be the first guest on here with the new backdrop, and I think it's pretty cool, and I'm thankful that it's you that gets to do this because, man, you got so much great information, and you can really help contractors out, and this is going to be one of those opportunities, I'm sure, for you to help us out and help people become better contractors, and that's what this show's all about. And so guys like you are what makes it possible, so thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you. All right.
So let's dive right into this, man. Let's talk about what it was like working for such a large organization. And because I know like a lot of contractors that I talk to, the idea of even, getting into like 9 figures just doesn't even compute for most people. And right. You were working at a 9-figure plus company. You were helping lead a sales team. Give us a little bit of background on that real quick, and then talk to us a little bit about what that meant.
So, working with a company that big, things happen a lot slower. There's more red tape. So, so there's goods and bads to a company that big. But really what's nice is because you have a lot more money, you can do a lot more things. You can try more things out. You can do more research based on where you're at or where you want to go. You have the money to do that rather than totally relying on the people that are there. So you can always bring more people in. You can bring panels in. There's so much you can do with a company that big. And so, when you're looking at growing somebody or a company that to that size, you get to a certain point, and then you start to look at how are we going to continue to grow. And the only way that you can do that is with more locations. And one thing that I have been told, even inside of even inside of that organization, one of the bigger investors in the company had mentioned to me that it's not how big you are, it's how much of the where's your bottom line, what's your EBITDA, what's your what is your profit margin. And I've seen many of these companies out here, and they boast that they've got 10 locations, 12 locations, and and there's a company here in Ohio. They have 10 locations with $10 million. I says, man, you're probably spending more money on your locations than you're making. So it's not about what you can take to the community, or it's not about what you can say when you go to these big events about how much you make. It's about how much you can earn with that. And I know that was a big mouthful, but that's what inside of these bigger companies is that you have more money to do more advertising and research, but we also move a lot slower. If we wanted to change things up, we have to move a lot slower, a lot more red tape. You always have, whether it's a CFO that always, is watching over your back with what you're spending or what you're doing. So I mean, there's goods and goods and bads. Let's put it that way.
I love our CFO here, so let's just put it that way. I'll leave it at that. He's phenomenal, and working on a big organization really is different though. And I'm gonna speak on my own. Going from a entrepreneurial like contractor, then Art of the Supplement, what I was doing, and then moving into an organization like Balance, that was definitely a huge change for me. But what I learned that was really interesting was these bigger organizations, the more compartmentalized they become, and in that is a huge advantage, I think, for me as a person and for people doing their jobs, because you now become more task centric, and you're able to really grow to your strengths. I think I feel like as an entrepreneur, I was doing a lot of things that I really wasn't that good at, but now working within this organization, I'm focusing in and really dialing in on the stuff that I really want to do. Like I want to do the show. I want to do the trainings. I want to do the boot camps. I want to do all the masterclass stuff. Before I had managed the whole thing. Now I'm just focused on what I'm really good at. And I think I bring a lot more value to the organization that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
it's so that being, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, it brings a whole different level of complexity, because I think a lot of people think, well, 100 million, that's complex. Like you got to have a lot of moving pieces, which you do, but on a personal level, it's actually much simpler. And I think every person in this organization will say the same thing, from Troy Clymer to Eric Hepler to CEO, CFOs, to all of our staff, directors, managers, everyone that's in this business. They all understand, like, hey, we have a task to do. We can do it extremely well, and that's all we have to worry about. And I think there's a lot of peace, and there's a lot of it creates a much better environment for people to really grow and flourish within, if it's a healthy organization.
Yes. Yeah, and I will say, and when you look at someone like Abel and Mr. Roof, they grew somewhat slowly. I mean, as long as they've been in business, people look at how big they are, but they don't look at how long they've been in business. The other thing is that business was grown based on, just good business practices, where many people look and say, hey, what sales systems can I put in place to grow my business? And you got to look at your business practices first, because that's what's going to give you the foundation and the launch pad to be that big. And then a lot of these companies, when they say they want to be, 20, 30, 40 million, and they're stagnant right around that 10 million. And the reason why is because they're so focused on, and I shouldn't be saying this because I'm a sales trainer, but they're so focused on just the sales process and not so much the business practices, or they just want to center themselves around one or two marketing strategies, which is only going to get you so far.
Yeah, you're right. And I think things that's cool about what you do, and I've gotten to spend a little bit of time behind the scenes with you on how you actually like do your sales trainings and how you guys build these sales teams to go to that level. And it looks really different though than what the conventional sales team looks like in the roofing industry specifically.
Hmm.
And it turns into like this. You guys almost have a. I'm sure that a lot of this was carried over from other large organizations, but you take even when you have a small sales group and implement the same tactics and strategies into them and start building them into a larger sales group. It's basically the way you do it is a real scalable process that builds these teams that basically just grow themselves over time.
Right. When I come into an organization and start working with their sales team, I need to make it easy. It has to be easy. The process has to be easy. The script has to be easy because when they're in the house, they need to be able to think about what's going on in front of them, not about what their script is. And so whether I'm in a very large organization or a very small organization, it's sales is always works the same way, and it's a transference of feeling. And if all they're feeling is this robot in front of them just regurgitating a script, they're gonna know it right off the bat. I mean, even when I just got done with a lot of training this morning, and they just learned the script, and they sound like they just learned a script. They know it very well, and now they need to understand how to use that and say it inside of a conversation rather than just So other than price and affordability, any reason why I couldn't go ahead and get you on the schedule today? I mean, you need to have a conversation with that. So whether I'm in a big organization or small organization, you keep it easy. The other piece is understanding your price presentation. I get a lot of ho-hums from sales managers when I say, hey, what I need from you first, anytime I start to work with an organization, the first thing I ask them to do is I want all your sales reps to do their video. I need you to videotape them doing their price presentation every time. I would like to say 90% of the time, 95%, 100% of the time, I get this phone call. Well, we're going to redo it. It wasn't good, man. It was horrible. And I always stop the salesman and says, I know. That's why I'm having you do this. You wouldn't be calling me if this thing was perfect. I wanted you to realize how bad your price presentation is. So that's why whether in a big or a small organization, it really doesn't matter as long as your team, all going in the same direction, all using the same language.
Yeah, that's the kicker is building those pieces up. But you guys start at such a small level, like with canvassers, and then they move into this and they move into that, and
Yep.
it's just like a whole different way. Like the other side of it too is the retail aspect, and I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Able, Mr. Roof, you talk about them; they were a mostly retail organization. Most of our sales people in the storm restoration side of the industry, they think they're rock stars because they can sell a free roof, but when it comes to retail, they're just like, oh, wait, we got to slow this thing down and we got to give the thing away to get retail. When in reality, retail is what built that business and is probably their more profitable than most of the retail guys in insurance work is.
Right. And inside of Bullet Roof, we, like you mentioned, you have to start out in canvassing. I start everybody out in the trenches, if you will, and then they learn. They move up the ladder from there. And when we get into selling the product, we're not just there to sell whatever the insurance company is willing to give them. Now, I'm also not arrogant enough to say that we don't sell it. Every now and then the customer just stonewalls us, and I just want whatever the insurance company's willing to pay for. But most of the time, we're upgrading them into other packages. Like I'd mentioned before, I mean, even our laminate, if they started with a 3-tab, we're not just, we're just going to give away the laminate shingle. I mean, if you did your job, you've got the contingency agreement, so they've already agreed to do business with you. I mean, it's a salesman's dream to say, hey, the worst I can do is what the insurance company's willing to pay. Usually it's the worst I can do is go home without a check. And that's why I love the insurance business.
Well, it's a whole different beast but they feel like retail is a whole different beast that they can't seem to conquer. When in reality, with the right systems, the right processes, the right salespeople, and the right training, retail is a whole different world for them that just opens the doors of uh, scalability, opens the doors to being much more stable as a business because you're not relying on outside forces. I know like guys in Denver this year right now are just like chomping at the bit for some hail, and it's like, man, if but the ones that know how to do retail sales, they're just like, hail great, hail no, whatever, it doesn't matter to us. And so it's definitely one of those things where understanding those processes makes such a big difference. And watching you do it, man, it's like watching Picasso draw something. I mean, you know how to build these systems and build these people and put the right processes in place.
Mm-hmm.
That not just I think if you try, you can't grow to 100 million without processes. Heck, you probably could barely grow to 10 million without processes. It's very difficult to scale something if you don't have the right systems and the right pieces in place to build that around to build that system and that team. Is that right?
That's exactly right. You've got to have the systems in place, especially when you're looking at a retail company. You have to understand when your guys go into the house, they need to know how to price condition. Again, especially in like Denver, where most people are going to sit back and say, I'm just going to wait until the next storm. We still get that here in Ohio, and we don't get that many storms. We'll still get, I'm just going to wait for the next storm. And so, we need to change them from, we need to wait for the next storm to, what, we need to gear you up for the next storm. We need to make sure you're ready for the next storm. And people will, they'll fold over. They'll actually understand that, whether I need to do it now or do it later, it needs to be done. So I need to go ahead and do it, anyway. But, that's part of our presentation in the house. That's another thing that a lot of the storm companies, they don't quite understand is how we do a presentation in the house, how we do a demo in the house. Because inside of cash, I need to give them enough value so that they're going to give me the $20,000, $30,000 to do their roof.
Yeah, for sure. And that's but it's a different world though when you introduce some of the tools for retail as well that make it a lot easier for them to make those decisions. And you're right, it's all about the value proposition at that point and selling the business. And this is just going to be sidelined here, but it's a good segue into this. But I really appreciate what Atlas has been doing with their system. They've really set the bar really high for contractors and partnering with contractors with their live roof play thing they got with Asphalt Life. If you guys don't know about Asphalt Life and what Atlas is doing, make sure to check them out. Go to atlas.com/asphalt life and check out all the blogs and all the tools that they're giving to contractors to help them grow. And some of this stuff is to help you grow on the retail side as well as the insurance restoration side. And so those things are so important to move forward with when you're scaling and building your business. Chuck, I want to ask you a couple more questions here because, let's say for example that I'm a guy that's doing $5 to $7 million a year, 8 million a year. And, I'm putting processes in place. I'm trying to build a system here so that, I can, if we have a saying around here at the office that, if Troy or Eric or anyone were to die in a plane crash, balance would still keep going. A lot of businesses, especially roofing contractors and contractors in general, they can't say that. If they were to die, they're the guy that does the estimates. They're the guys that some of them do the work themselves. They're the ones, if they die, the business is dead. Right. What's the first thing that someone needs to start doing to start thinking about if they're going to implement processes and systems in place to grow their organization?
It's hard because anytime you go into a company, that's the first thing you want to ask them is what they currently have in place. You should be able to, every owner should be able to go take a vacation and their business runs without them. And I would ask, once we get to a certain point, I ask them, I need you to go on vacation. I need you to leave your phone behind, which they never do. But, I need you to just don't answer the phone. let everybody in the company do what they do, and I think you're going to be surprised with just how well they know how to do their business. But everybody still has to be accountable for their job. I'm very big on, and this is kind of a confrontation I have with a lot of the storm companies, is, you have to have a very good production team. Don't rely on your sales team to monitor the production team. Everybody has to stay in their lane. If you can get everybody to stay in their lane, you have a system that flows. It's the same thing when if you actually have a sales, hey, this is my sales team, and I'm going to have them follow up on their leads. In a retail, I have probably spent $350 per lead. That sales guy is not going to follow up on that lead. I've got a team of people that are going to follow up on that lead. So everybody has a certain job inside the company. Now, granted that, again, we're getting into a bigger company with that. So you may not, some of the companies that watch this may not be at that point yet, but every step has somebody that's their responsibility to keep that going, whether it's rehash, whether it's a phone room, separate confirmer, making sure that you have a production manager, you have your project managers that go out to the job and make sure it's done right. Don't have your sales reps going out to make sure that the job is done right. The only thing that is in his head is everything else he has to do during that day. So again, that's where, when you have a company and it starts to get very, very big, that's why they can get big. It's because people have more time to do their job and to do it right.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's the beautiful thing of the organization. So I think if you're a contractor and you're in the, maybe you're in the sub $10 million range and you're wanting to break that barrier, which I think Jim Johnson likes to talk about that. He's, once you get to a certain point, it's like, it's a whole new set of challenges. And I think this is the biggest challenge, is empowering your team to become all that they could be, and compartmentalizing, creating the job descriptions, giving people very task-oriented jobs, so that we look at this, almost every company, the sales rep does everything. They sell the job, or they knock the door, they sell the job, they place the orders, or they meet the adjuster, they place the orders, they do the supplements, they turn it all back in. It's like that's the way that they're almost always set up to be. And you look at the companies that are the size of Able, of Apple, like these other companies that are big, they're running a whole different sales process and a whole different team mentality that allows them to really grow.
Right. And, I get the question a lot, is how can we be Able, or how can we be, like you say, Apple, which I don't know much about, but, and you kind of have to just shake your head and say, that's a whole different system. It's night and day. They have to run their business completely different because of their size than how you would need to run your business.
Right. And I totally agree with that. And you're right. It's a whole different system, but the baby steps, get started, start to build the systems internally, take what you have and systematize it as much as you can humanly possible within what you already have existing. And then from there, start to, as those systems, you may have to have people doing multiple tasks for now, but start to fill those tasks up so that there's one person you can start to split them. Because I can't imagine, if I was a sales rep, if I was a really good sales rep, there's no way that I would be really, really good at placing orders and dealing with material and production. I would hate my life. If I was a really good door knocker, you're probably not a really, really good sales rep. There's got to be some room for allowing yourself to be good at what you're good at, and let those that are good at the other tasks take those tasks off your plate.
That's right. Now, the other thing that I hear a lot is, Chuck, how do we add locations, which is a very slippery slope. When people are ready to add locations, what they have to understand is, you have your home base, and I have never been in a company yet where the other locations is treated as well as home base. Because that's where the owner is. That's where,
right.
Let's say that's where all the community, outreach is done, and people know that company there at the home base. And then when you get to these locations, they think that we're going to grow these other locations as fast as the home base. And if you really look at it, it took you 10 years to build, that home base before you decided to have another location in many cases. The other thing is if you took let's say we're in the middle of a pond, you drop a rock in the middle of a pond, the ripples next to that rock are really big, and then it gets smaller. So the locations that you're going to build around your main location, they will do well. They may not do as well as the main your home base, but they will do well. And as further out that you go, what you'll find is they do less and less. And the strategy behind making sure that those locations do just as well is somebody has to have ownership of that location. Whether it's the owner that's going to leave home base and he's going to, plant himself in that location and build that. But each location, somebody has to be responsible for. Somebody has to take ownership of and be accountable for it. It can't, I'm going to caution you on making a family member or best friend or somebody in charge of that, because you have to be able to hold them accountable. And it's hard when you find and you send somebody over to say Lexington, Kentucky, and he's my best friend, maybe he's my son, and I can't really hold him accountable. I want somebody that I can hold accountable, somebody that I know can do it. They have the talent to do it. They are smart enough to do it, and they're going to take ownership of that location, so that you don't have that ripple effect where the further from home office, the worse they do.
That's a great insight right there, because I think that what you're describing is typically what happens. Those satellite locations are never going to be able to compete with the home base. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's a great insight. And that's something that I think a lot of contractors, business owners, wherever you are in your industry, if you're thinking about moving and opening new offices, definitely keep that in mind. And, as you do that, because I know, like, for some people, that's your only option. That's your only option of growth. If you've grown your location up and you own the market share, what else can you do? That's all you can do. And so, but yeah, having the right strategy in place. Guys, if you don't know who Chuck Thokey is, make sure to look him up. Check him out on Facebook. He's on Instagram, LinkedIn. Are you on Instagram? I can't remember if you're on Instagram.
I am.
I know you're on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. Yep. LinkedIn, Facebook.
And he actually does train in. Yeah, and you take your knowledge and you help companies do this. You help them build a sales team, help them build sales strategies. I love what you do, Chuck, because I think it's really phenomenal. Make sure to check him out. It's Business Success Advisors, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so check him out, Chuck Thokey. He speaks all over the place, talks to everyone. I really appreciate you being here today, my friend. It's always a pleasure. You should have just driven over. You're right across the border in Ohio, so we could have just done this live. Next time we'll do that, though. But it's good seeing you, man. I appreciate you being on here today. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, John. It's been fun.
Absolutely, man. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too.
So, folks, that's Chuck Thokey with Business Success Advisors. Make sure to check him out. Folks, if you haven't followed this page, subscribe to it, liked it, check it out. We also have our podcast up. They are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn. It's all over the place. Make sure to go check them out so you can listen to past episodes as well as these episodes. They go right up on there an hour after the show airs. So make sure to check those out. Otherwise, guys, we will be back on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern with my buddy Mike Gogan. He's going to be joining us from Company Cam, and I really want to talk to him about some stuff besides just Company Cam. But Mike's one of the most phenomenal marketing minds I've ever met, and so I want to get into some the meat and potatoes of what he's been up to and what's going on in his world. So make sure to check us out Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Right here for the American Contractor Show, brought to you by Atlas, Contractor Coach Pro, C3 Group, as well as Hail Trace and Roof Scope. Balance Claims and the Callus Group are also some sponsors here. So we have a great group of them, and they're doing amazing, and we thank them so much for being a part of this. So, guys, we will see you on Thursday. Have a great rest of your day, and, yeah, this will be fun. We'll see you guys. Thanks so much for watching today's show. Make sure to like and subscribe our pages so that you can stay up to date with every episode. And by the way, this show is all about you, the American Contractor. Be sure to comment and let us know what you want to hear about and what subjects you want us to touch on. We'll be sure to include them in a future episode. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.